Dancing forces change. I've never seen a dancer who didn't succeed when they retired. Because you were forced to be disciplined with the most important person, that's yourself. I would have been maybe 7 years old, perhaps, when I started playing the drums at school. I turned out to be pretty good at drums. And someone said, well, if you can play music, if you wish to be successful, learn how to sing and dance. I was asked to leave school in grade 10 because I was just being picked on from all the boys, but I just got sick of it. About October of grade 10, I just had enough. So I just fought back, and I took about 3 or 4 kids down, but quite badly. I hurt them a lot. And so they just said, school's not for you, you've got anger issues. Dad, like, Shane, I'm proud of you. He said, I know I told you not to fight back, but they had it coming. You'll be fine. So I left school. Then I got lucky enough to join the ballet company, and the rest is kind of history. When you start dancing, you have like ideas like, oh, I'd love to be the person who opens the show. I'd like to be the main person. I'd like to do this. So the first role like that for me was Midsummer Night's Dream. Harold Collins choreographed the role of Puck on me. So that's really quite important, because when someone creates a role on a dancer, it means that that dancer's influenced the choreographer. You become a muse. Still, people say, oh, I remember you in Puck. So I feel like that was a pivotal time for me. That would have been 1989, so it was only my second year at the company. From that, I got promoted to principal dancer, like the top of the company, and I was like, wow. And I was the youngest in Australia for that, so suddenly I've really got to start working hard. Just exploring what the body could do. I mean, we exercise 12 hours a day. There's a point, a dream point, where your body can literally do almost anything. And that, by exploring, sometimes you find a limit to what your body can do. So my shins are a bit different to most other people's in the fact that they're almost 90% artificial. What happened was, as I was dancing, it turns out I have a remarkably high pain threshold. So I had these microfractures. They weren't healing because I kept dancing. So there are several options. What we eventually went for was they moved my kneecaps out and then inserted this rod and zip it all back together, and it's all done. So I've got 2 of those. There's only 3 of them in the world. In about 8 months, I was dancing very well. And then I went down to City Dance Company after that, and fine. And I'm still fine to this day. But injuries are great because they force you to reinvent yourself and understand more about your technique. So when you do come back from an injury, you're normally always a better dancer because you suddenly have more understanding of what your body and its limitations are. Like, I remember, would have been the year before I retired, doing class and looking out the window going, there's got to be something else. So after 15 years, I was just like, I'm done. The edges of anything are always hard. So even though it sounded an easy choice, it was a hard choice because I didn't know what else to do. And then I got called to the university, and they said, hey, we want you to come and lecture. And I was like, well, this will be fun. It turned out I had a really, really good knowledge of watching the body. So I could see things like, and one of the electives I did was neurological disabilities. Because I knew intimately how the body moves and how the muscles work, when I started doing anatomy, I was able to remember all the names of the muscles, but also how they worked. I could see problems. I could say, how come that person is walking but their toes flexed? And she said, that's a really good point. Carolyn O'Brien, you know, all the alphabet after her name, said, listen, could you come and help me? I'm running this thing called PADPAC. And what we do is we get people with neurological disabilities and we retrain how their body works. And I was like, wow, everything's sorted. But then literally 2 months into that, they fired Carolyn. And I was like, you've just fired my supervisor. She's the whole reason I'm here. So I said, no, I'm going to do a teaching degree. When I sort of finished dancing, I'd already choreographed several ballets for lots of dance studios. So I already had that kind of desire to keep teaching. Well, I fell in love with science first, and then I've always been interested in the rocks, but I never really knew much about them. And science forced me to have that better understanding. With that better understanding, then I realized, well, I'm actually not just going to read about this. I actually want to go and find stuff, having all this sort of stuff where the kids can actually play with it and no one's worried about it being broken because it's pretty hard to damage. I don't know if you remember at school where you give all these kids spaghetti and marshmallows and you say, build the tallest tower you can. And the studies show children do better than executive CEOs and often engineer students. And because kids just explore, they build, oh, that didn't work. And they build, they don't sit and go, what should I do? They just play with things. So if you've got a body that you can play with and experiment and try to find its limits over and over and over again, you start to just find remarkable stuff. And it's the same with education. If you just say this is the only way to learn, then you're stuffed, you know. And so yeah, I think that has continued to carry through. Teachers can ride in their jobs. You can't do that in dancing. You focus and discipline. So the successful ones have that in bucket loads. And I've never yet seen it fail anyone, but very few people get it to the level of a dancer. But those that do, those that intuitively get it, they're the ones who are changing the world because they're just driven, you know. And teach kids how to have drive. Teach them they're going to fail, that it's actually their hard work, not mine. I don't care what mark they get, but if you try your best in class and fail, that's a great mark because you tried your best, and next time you might get better. Just think about like the first time I broke my foot. I'm suddenly going, my whole career's over. I had to reinvent myself, but that's a change. Constantly having to reinvent yourself, knowing you're going to have injuries. It is impossible not to. That's a big change. It's a big challenge. It's a big thing. I think change is essential. Overcoming fear is a really hard thing to do. Take one step forward, and at least you're better than you were that step ago.